The top 100 agents are the best of the best, listing and selling more than any other agent in Australia.
Sold. Congratulations, sir. Well bought.
These are the practices, actions and beliefs of the most successful agents in Australian real estate. Raw, honest and completely uncut. Welcome to REB's Secrets of the Top 100 Agents.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast. I'm Emilie Lauer, REB's Deputy Editor, and today I am joined by the CEO of the RISE initiative, Kylie Davis, to discuss how can agents and property professionals reset and recharge during the holiday season, but also get themselves ready for 2026. Kylie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kylie, I feel like we've been talking about well-being, forever in the industry and how important is well-being. But how do we get there? How much does well-being impacts property professional everyday life? And how do we set ourselves for success in that space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's unpack some of the stuff in this, because one of the things that I want to get across today is that well-being should not be something else on your to-do list that becomes stressful or that you feel like you've got to tick off, because that's kind of counterintuitive, right? The other thing I'd like to really share is that my husband and I at the moment are in the process of getting our house ready for sale and buying a new one. And even though I personally have spent, 15 plus years in this space, I've done the research on buying and selling and why it is stressful. But I am completely amazed at how triggered I am on all the levels about the work that's involved in selling a home and packing up a home of 25 years. And it's been a really interesting experience because it makes me realise what real estate agents deal with every single day. Because if you've got someone like my husband and I who are in the space every day, who understand intellectually completely what's going on, but we're still really activated, right, about packing up 26 years of memories and having to cull stuff and, making, months of work to get the property ready. And then what our agents have to deal with at times when we're just feeling a little bit unhinged, it makes you realise what first responders, real estate agents and property managers are around so many people's mental health. Like we need to actually get real, that we play in a space that is really psychological as real estate agents and property managers. And so wellness isn't optional and it's not nice to have. It's something that we really have to have on our radar constantly in our practices, so that we are looking after ourselves, because like they say, you can't look after someone else unless your own oxygen mask has been fitted first.
100%. And look, it's crazy to think that, you're still being triggered. I
mean,
oh
my God, so triggered.
when and you've been at RISE for a number of years. So, you guys are the voice of well-being in the industry.
Yeah.
But it also showed that, for non-professionals or for people like Lambda people selling the house that are relying on their agents to help them go navigate that space. Lambda people have no conscious about that. They're putting that extra pressure on agents.
Yeah, I've been saying to Mark, I know that I'm experiencing cognitive overload. I know that I've packed one too many boxes and I've had to make one too many decisions about old photos or, photo just frames or furniture, that I can remember the selection process and how important it was to us as a family and the layers of comfort we've built up in this home, and now we are stripping it back. And I'm really conscious of what's going on in my head and why I'm finding it hard, and I'm quite astonished at how hard I'm finding it. And I think at the same time, what would it be like if I wasn't this conscious of it? I have had moments where not being able to find a tomato knife has completely sent me over the edge. It's the small stuff that brings you unhinged, right? And I've been really mindful of, if I'm feeling like this, knowing everything that I know, if I didn't know, what must it be like for people who don't actually know what they're about to go through, who are just sort of diving in and coping the best they can? And what is the role of real estate agents in guiding those people? Because it's really not about the transaction. And when we hear about the stress that agents and property managers are experiencing, it's often because they're copying people at that moment when that really small thing just set them unhinged. And so this is what I've unpacked, and it's because our brains love shortcuts. So our brains look for what's familiar, and our brains create shortcuts so we don't have to keep thinking about things all the time, right? And in a house that you've lived in for a while, regardless of how long, you have a whole lot of shortcuts. You know where your underpants are without having to think about where they are. You know where the soap, where the shampoo is. You know where all of these things are. But the minute you start packing and getting things ready, all of those things change. And so you have to start thinking. Your brain starts to have to work on a whole lot of stuff that for years and years and years it has taken completely for granted. And then you throw into that the mix of, and you have to organise the mortgage, and you have to worry about how much have you got to spend, and you have to think about school lunches on Tuesday, and you have to, and the end of year and all of that stuff. You just see how much cognitive overload your clients are going through. And then you thought you were just ringing them to find out whether they do or don't want to go ahead with the marketing plan, and they've completely melted down in front of you. It's probably got nothing to do with that, and they're probably to do with the fact that they can't find a tomato knife to make a school sandwich.
It's very interesting because in that sense, agents shouldn't take things personally then.
Absolutely not. And I think it's really about that ability to hold space. As we need as agents better tools and better language around how we support people through this. So it's not about taking all of that on. It's not about trying to fix it for everybody, but it's about being able to hold space and saying, I can hear that you're really upset. I'm going to give you a minute to take a breath, and just convince, just sort of suggest, can we just calm this down? And then repeat what you're hearing or what they're upset about, but then sort of gently redirecting them towards that. Well, would you like me to call you back? We still need to make a decision about this, but if you'd like me to give you a bit of space or time, we can talk about it in an hour or so, or call me back. But I think really that idea of not taking it on, having some language around it, and being able to take a breath, let them do their thing, and
it's all about communication, yeah?
Yeah. No, and I love this idea of holding space rather than having to feel like you have to listen, because if you feel like you're listening, you have to solve a problem or jump in with an answer or have all the answers. And I think sometimes they're not looking at you for answers. They're just looking to be heard.
Yeah.
And what they want you to hear is that they're scared and that they're stressed out.
Yeah, very interesting. Kylie, you mentioned something very much at the very first sentence. Is like that well-being and mental health shouldn't be another item on your to-do list. Look, knowing that both agents and property professionals, whether it's property managers or even receptionists, we're busy, yeah? Everybody's very busy, and you always have extra tasks that takes priority. How do you make your mental health, your well-being a priority as well, rather than another bullet point to go through down the list?
Yeah, it's a great one. And this is a bit of a do as I say, don't do as I do thing. So, because I think we're all guilty of this. But I think if you think about the scenarios that I've just described, that's a lot of, not armor, but that's a lot coming at you on a day-to-day basis, right? And it's not about saying it doesn't matter and therefore it shouldn't matter and so you shouldn't be affected. It's actually about recognising that that has an impact on you. And that impact basically draws down on your battery, on your coping battery, and as an agent or as a property manager. So we all have a battery of energy that we've got every single day that we've got to deal with things. And if you're dealing with people that are constantly in that state, then that is going to draw down on your battery. So I guess the question is, what are we doing on a day-to-day basis that actually recharges our battery. And I think the best analogy for the real estate industry, and the one that made so much sense to me, is that that idea of a mobile phone battery. We know that we don't let our phones drop down to below 10%. Like if that's happening, well, we're supposed to not, right? But every single day you put them back on the charger and you get them back up to 100% so that you can hit the day. And you know that if you basically have run it all the way down, then it's going to take longer for it to restart once you get it back on a charger. And I think that's a great analogy for us as an industry. We shouldn't, and we don't usually wait until it's right at end point. Emily's shaking her head at me.
I had a 2% battery yesterday, so I was like, oopsie.
Well, we have little thing, we have chargers in our handbags or in our pockets or in our cars to keep us going. I think we need to start thinking about it like that. What's the thing that we're doing to give ourselves the recharge during the day to make sure that we don't run ourselves down to zero? And I think that's at this time of the year, it's a really important thing to think about too, that you don't need to run down to zero or minus zero to deserve a rest.
Yeah.
Because the further back you go, the harder it is to charge back up to it.
100%. And look, 2025 has been a massive year in
it's been
property.
A monster. It's been a monster.
So many reforms, so many, so many, no, not that many rate cuts, but rate cuts, demands, low supply, a lot of new buyers agents coming on, first home buyer schemes, the Help to Buy scheme last week. So the demand is increasing, property prices are increasing, a lot of auctions as well. It's been a massive year.
Yeah. Totally.
How do we recharge?
Well, I think, look, this is my favourite time of year, although I am clawing my way by my fingernails to get to that Christmas time. But I think what I love about Australian Christmases is that we have that period between sort of Christmas Eve and 1st, 2nd of December, which I call the week of Sundays, even though it's probably 10 days, although I can never, and literally you wake up on day 3 and you just can't remember what day it is anymore. No one knows. It is a great day it is a great period of the year to actually completely switch off because everyone is switching off. And so don't feel like there's a lot of talk out there that, when everyone else is switching off, that's when you should get your hustle on. But you can't hustle if you've got nothing in the tank, right? So use this time when everyone is taking time off to put some fuel in the tank and spend time with family, read a book, not your phone, really lie under a gum tree or on the beach and do what it is that you need to put some strategies in place for what your wellness and performance plan is going to be for the new year. But give yourself a week of switching off before you start to try and use the brain again.
See, that's something for me, it's very, especially for real estate agents, yeah? Real estate agents, they have, they're sales agents. They also thrive on commissions, yeah? Mm-hmm. So not working means no commission, no sales, nothing. How do you mentally switch off and have that break without feeling guilty that you're away from work and away from that, big win mindset in a way?
So here's what I've learned in my career is that switching off like that is almost impossible. And this is hard if you've got a spouse or a partner who is saying, you're always at work, you need, this is the time when we said we were going to be together with the kids. Can you just turn off, stop it. The way that I do it is that I have a scaling down period. So I always make sure when I've got holidays booked that I give myself 3 or 4 days to scale down. So I don't try and go cold turkey because cold turkey never works. I will have a normal weekend and then I will do a little bit of work just to finish things off and tie them up with a bow, but I won't do like I was trying to just really limit it and just wind it down, as in, wind it down, and then give myself the grace of the holiday and the time off. And then I try at the other end to start to wind up, because once you have actually had a good break, and usually that needs to be 2 weeks, it's hard to just do it in 1 week, but you'll then have a period while you're away on holidays where you will think, oh, this is what my brain does when it's not completely insane, right? Okay. Oh, this is kind of nice. And you'll find yourself thinking of really creative solutions to, problems you couldn't solve all year, or coming up with killer ideas on how you want to position yourself in market, or new processes that you want to put in your business, because you just we haven't been able to grind out a solution, right? So this time away lets our brains, re-lubricate almost and start to think things through without us thinking, percolating them is what I call it. But I think if we stop putting the pressure on ourselves around going cold turkey and just stopping, and start to think about, well, how could I just wind down? I'm not going to do a 10-hour day or a 14-hour day. I'm going to do I'm just going to put 6 hours in. Virginia Woolf used to say, if I can just have 4 uninterrupted hours, that's an excellent day's work. Like, how could you just have 4 uninterrupted hours for your first day off to finish some things off, tick them off the list, gives you a little dopamine hit, and just start to wind down.
So winding down like progressively and gradually rather than the cold turkey. That's a good advice.
Yeah.
Kylie, what are some of the other practical well-being advice you can give, our property professionals to actually like take care of their mental health during that period? Guessing, going to the beach could be one.
Yep.
But not everybody are beach people. I mean, I am, but...
Well, yeah, also recognizing that Christmas can be a bit stressful.
Oh, my God, yes. Especially when you've got
family and
families.
alcohol. What could go wrong? Yeah.
Hey, couldn't be a good Christmas if there's not at least one drama fight.
That's right, and someone in tears. Look, I think what we need to be doing is being real about what's actually going to happen. And so I think if we have action plan, and as real estate agents, we are great at having sort of, scripts and dialogues. But what a script and dialogue is we have a plan for when this happens. Like, that's what a script and dialogue is, right? So think about it. I have a plan for when this happens. And probably the realistic future that or short-term future that everyone's looking at is, I have a ton of work to get through, and then I've got a bit of time off with family, and I've got Christmas, and then we've got the new year, and I've got a whole lot of things that I've got to get done as well, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to get them all done. And so that's fine. That's, okay, that's what's real. That's what's real. So what's our plan to get through that? A bit of wind down time so that you can actually recharge and have time with family. A couple of, some time off where you're just focused on Christmas Day, doing what you've got to do to get through that with as much joy, grace and happiness as possible. And I hope everybody has a relaxed and connected Christmas. But if that's not real for you, that's okay. I hope everyone can get through that period. And then a couple of days off just for you and your family to reconnect, or for you to kind of take time, which, think of it like I'm recharging my battery, I'm sharpening the axe, because I can't keep cutting down trees if my axe isn't sharp. So, and then letting just very gently the ideas start to come, put them in a journal, don't put them in your phone, write them down by hand, because that's easier on your brain, and just keep a notebook and start to write things down as they come to you, but don't think about them too much. And then give yourself an end date so that when you come back to work, you are ready to go. Build yourself up and then go.
Yes, very interesting. Yeah, Christmas time can be also very, very intense. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially, if you do have to if you get the family in and you're the one hosting. Now, we're talking about also a little bit on the going back to work side of things. 2025 was a mad year. 2026 is shaping to continue to be as mad as 2025. How do we manage stress and prevent, like burnout and prevent our well-being to go down on those daily routine tasks that we could do to just, have that like really well set, mental health rather than the ups and down and ups and down and ups and down?
Yeah, I think paying attention to what your cruising altitude is and like how you're cruising, and making like in that time when you're having, when you are starting to rest and relax, think about what didn't I like about we often try to set our, what's our goals for 2026 without really properly reflecting on what we've just been through. And so for me, the way I'm going to tackle it this year is I'm going to sit down and write down all the things I haven't loved about 2025. And like, it's not a huge list, but what's the opposite to that? Like what would I love? What would I like to have done differently? And wellness goals are often a part of that. Like what should, Tangerlee says, don't should all over yourself. But what would I like to do differently in 2026? And then these things don't have to be big, hairy, audacious goals that you have to achieve before the end of February, right? They can be, that micro habit idea. I'm just going to do one thing every day that is small and different. And that might be journaling, or it might be taking the dog for a walk every day as opposed to once every couple of days, or it might be instead of doom scrolling, I'm going to be mindful about when I'm doom scrolling or when I'm just flicking through my phone because my brain's fried and I've got nothing in the tank, but I'm looking for distraction. And if that happens to you, that's an absolute sign that you're having a cortisol overload. But instead of doom scrolling, I'm just going to do something like the Real Care app and click onto that and just see if I can do a breathing exercise for 2 minutes instead of checking out LinkedIn and feeling terrible about my career or things. Because everybody else's lives is so much better than mine.
Yeah, be careful with social media. Yeah. Like everything you see there is pretty much fake anyway, yeah?
Oh, gosh, yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Hashtag humble. Yeah. But I think, and look, I am on LinkedIn a lot, but I think, micro habits, thinking about what's one small thing I could do every single day that is different to what I do right now, and how can I be more mindful about what's showing up for me, and recognizing when I am spiraling off a little bit or when my behavior is kind of looking for distraction, when I'm really kind of chasing the dopamine as opposed to actually breathing and like owning the space.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You mentioned the RISE app, which I think I want to touch base on definitely, which is part of the RISE initiative. Mm-hmm. Very easy app to use for both agents and property managers. Mm-hmm. What can we find on the app?
So the Real Care app is full of things to build your resilience, manage stress differently, help you become mindful about what's going on and learn more about what's going on in your head and how your head's working. But then it also, and they're the very positive features, and it also has a finance function, so you can work out commissions in advance and get really clear on what you need to be bringing in for your expenses. But then for the times when you're not feeling feeling proactive and you need some help urgently, or someone that you know needs some help urgently, it also includes 3 free and completely confidential phone counselling sessions, courtesy of the Domain EAP. And we're really delighted that there are now 3 versions of the app out there, because there's the main Real Care app, or the standard one, but then also there are versions for Harcourt's offices and for Rain and Horn offices. They have their own version of the app, which includes all the key stuff and then some of their own.
So
elements.
Other networks could join also.
They absolutely can. Yep, they can. They should reach out to me if that's what they'd like to do.
Yeah. Which brings me as a great segue to my next question. So We've talked a lot about what agents can do or property managers can do as individuals.
Yeah.
What's the role of agencies there? Should agencies and networks do more for their agents for their well-being?
Yeah, well, look, absolutely. And in fact, real estate agents, principals and directors are legally obliged to now. So only came out a couple of years ago, but under fair work legislation in all states and under the right to disconnect legislation, principals and directors are responsible for the mental health and the psychosocial risks inside their businesses. And that sounds like a really woke word, but what it means is that the research is out there that shows that real estate agents and property managers are at risk of abuse, of stress, of long time work issues around the job, and some of that can be the time that they spend and lack of downtime. And if you don't have in place processes and policies that cover how you support your people in those spaces, then there are very big fines and even jail time in some instances.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out in each state's slightly different, but yes, the punishment is quite
high, yeah.
Quite scary. Yeah.
So what are some strategies that networks and agencies and principals can put into place to help their agents or their property managers better? Yeah.
So I think recognizing that the old days of, take a cup of concrete and, harden up is not it's just not acceptable. Like it's not,
it's gone.
Well, millennials and Gen Zs are never going to never going to stand for it. But also it has not resulted in terribly healthy work practices for us as an industry. And so recognizing that the way that we work has inherent risks in it, and therefore it is our job as leaders to manage those risks for our people and simply naming, like saying, okay, we recognise these are risks, so this is how we, again, having processes and policies to cope with them. So when you onboard new staff, telling them what you do to support their mental wellness, and it's not just about, nobody wants, we all say, well, are you okay? And, if you're not, it's okay to not be okay. But actually no one ever wants to not be okay, right? This is not something we want to ever marinate in. Like nobody enjoys not being okay. We all want to perform at our best and have energy and passion and enthusiasm for what we're doing. Like being in flow and being excited by the job is when we, feel our best and perform at our best, and usually are being better human beings as a result with our families and stuff when we're feeling good about what we're doing. So that's the goal. It's not about not feeling bad. It's about like feeling awesome, right? And as we go about our work. So what are the processes that you've got in place to support your people to feel awesome in their job? And for the times when they're not, how do you support them and help them to get back on track in the same way that you would if they broke their leg at work or, or slipped over on a wet tile floor or something. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just, look, our brain is one of the most important organs in the body. It is, however, part of our body. So therefore, the way that we look after it is a health issue inside our businesses.
100%. And I think, if you're not feeling well and if you're not feeling at the top of your game, you can't really help other people achieve what they want to do, either like buying a house or selling a house or managing their property. Now, we know that there is a lot of abuse within the space by, customers. How do you manage that as a property professional? And is there a need for better education for the public?
Yeah, I think there is. And I think going back to what we were talking about originally, like thinking about what, we're in the process of selling and moving ourselves. And I think one of the hallmarks of Australian real estate, which is not the real estate industry's fault, but it's just what is that we take it for granted that you just do it. You just do it. Like, moving's terrible, but we just do it. Buying a new home is really hard, but you just do it. Like, you just do it yourself, and you just sort of have to cope with what it's like. But I think it would be fair and reasonable for us as a industry to have a conversation about, well, but exactly buying a property in 2025 and 2026 is a very different proposition to what it was back in 2016 and 2006 and 1996, right?
Yeah.
Buyers are largely out on their own, like it's DIY all the way, and sellers have the help of an agent, but they're trying to get the property sold. They're not necessarily thinking about the mental health of their sellers, and I think, but buying and selling property in Australia right now is a team sport.
Yeah,
it is not just something you cope with in between a very full-on career, a couple of kids, a bank that wants its payments every single month, and a hot lap of Woolies and school soccer or whatever is going on the weekends. It's not something that happens in the cracks. When people are going down this path, it becomes a very full-on experience for them for a short, intense period of, or hopefully a short, but an intense period of time. It's a very intense period. So I think we should stop pretending that it's just something you do and that you just have to literally pour a cup of concrete, to our buyers and sellers too. And yeah, it's hard. We've all done it. You'll be fine. Pat on the head, off you go. Like, I think we actually need to go, yes, it is. So what can we do how can we help? And I think we need to then have answers around how we're happy to help. And that's kind of where the prop tech stuff starts to come in, because there are lots of solutions out there now where we're seeing agents being able to help differently to what they could do in the past. And so pulling those things together so that people do feel, oh, okay, so that's how we do that. So training people or showing people how to do things as opposed to throwing the tools at them and saying, well, you work that out because that's what you need to do right now on top of everything else that's going on for you. You should actually also now learn some new tech, new software. So I think we need to get real about what it's like, and I think we have some procedures in place. I'd like to give a shout out to the agents that we're working with at the moment, because I'm actually selling 2 properties. So, I've got
wow,
and both agents are doing a great job. But especially because my husband's very anxious and is absolutely determined to get, if there's a gold star going for property sellers, he wants it. Like, he absolutely wants it. He'll kill me for saying this. But he has worked so hard on getting our property ready. Our team that we're working with have been fantastic, and they did it in the simplest way possible. They came out to visit us initially and came a couple of times, but then as soon as they had the listing, they put us onto a WhatsApp group just for the 4 of us. And so my husband's reporting everything that he's doing, almost over-reporting. They know every nail that has gone into the property, and they have been just so kind through all of that. They have been giving wonderful feedback. They've been cheering him on. They have, given him feedback on paint swatches and all sorts of things that I would never have thought it was an agent's job to do. But they have just done it with a smile and a warm heart, and the way he feels about the feedback that he's had, it's built up a fantastically strong relationship.
It's good they support you. That's good.
Yeah. And it hasn't been hard. Like, it's literally been WhatsApp, and it's just been, that looks great, Mark. Love to see that, popping around every now and then to see the changes as they've come into play. It's been very straightforward, but it hasn't been just showing up on sale day to tell us that we have to take whatever's happening at auction.
Yeah, no, fair enough. You mentioned the prop tech could be the solution. How will AI improve agents and property professional well-being in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. So this is where we get the overlay of AI in the health industry and AI in the property industry and also the observational power of and analytics of AI sitting in our phones all the time. Look, I'm going to put my magic 8 ball, shake my magic 8 ball. Where I think it's going to go is, well, where we see AI going generally is that AI, we've come from a place where the human brain has had to understand everything that we've wanted to do from a technology point of view. We've normally done that by learning the features of what the technology was offering, and then our human brains have worked out, do I need that? Would that work for me? Is that something that would be useful? Do I have time to learn it? We've sort of thought our way all through that stuff. And then if the answer to that was yes, we've then gone down the path of learning it and adopting it and ideally, hopefully making time to do it properly. Not always, only about 10% of the time. Where I think we're going, where I believe AI is taking us though, is that the more AI becomes embedded into the technology that we use on a daily basis, the more AI is going to start to diagnose us. And so therefore identify our patterns and behaviours that are telling us from a health point of view, you're veering off course, like your data's heading in the wrong direction. So like this is what we need to do and start to suggest ways to course correct. And I think in terms of property too, we're going to start to see, the AI finding ways or presenting solutions to us so that we can either as real estate agents on what we need to be telling our agents or where, self-analysing gaps that we've got and start to tell us how we can fix those gaps. This is where agentic AI comes in, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, definitely. But it sounds very interesting. I'm just very conscious that sometimes, human interaction will decrease, or at least that's the way I'm seeing it. Look, human interactions are the one that create stress at the end of the day. How do you, would it be a good thing if they decrease a little bit, or how do you manage those interactions to stay on a good, what did you say before, cruising well-being course?
Yeah. What's your cruising altitude? How do we come back to cruise when we're spiraling out of control? Look, I think there are pros and cons, right? I think AI can't give you a hug.
Yeah.
So, and one of the best ways to, have a really good dopamine hit is to, all the good hormones is to hug someone for more than 10 seconds. So you can't replace that. But I think too, there are times when I would rather talk to a bot than talk to a triggered human.
Yeah. Fair enough. Look, 100%.
I think there's often times when I'd rather talk chatbot. It's just especially around straightforward questions that have come to me at 11 o'clock at night when it would be unfair to expect a human to be on their game and answering that kind of stuff for me. So I think we need to go into AI really mindfully about how we want it to work for us as humans. And I think if we can get AI to do the heavy lifting around the information that when that goes wrong triggers us, then if the information is flowing right, then our questions will get better and our desire for human interaction and connection becomes stronger.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see where this will be going in the next couple of years, definitely. Kylie, let's go back to 2026 because it's just around the corner.
Yep.
And I know. I still don't know where 2025 has
Last time
gone.
I looked, it was April. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Halloween yesterday.
Yeah.
I feel like I am like my mom, to be honest. Every single time I have the time conversation, I feel so old.
I know. It hits us all.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. But what's going to be the key rules for property professionals in 2026 to maintain their well-being, manage their emotions, have those meaningful conversations and interaction with both buyers and sellers, but also with their teams.
Yeah. So three lots of stakeholders there, right? That all want something really different. And then also home.
Yeah, and
because
home.
home's a stakeholder, right? Don't forget the importance of home. So again, and I think this is why it's really important that we all literally take a little bit of time to read, to charge up the axe, because I don't think AI in the future we're going into is something that we should sit back passively and just watch what happens. Like that would be a disaster, because God knows where the AI is going to take itself. We actually need to be parents in this conversation and create guardrails for AI that is genuinely going to make us proud. Let's think of it like that. And the only way to do that is to think about what we want to achieve, what we want those relationships to be like. And here's the thing in real estate. So we absolutely need buyers to turn up, and we absolutely need renters to turn up, but we're not commissioned to look after that relationship. So the only way we can, or the important thing to focus on as part of that, there's two ways you can go. You can either go, well, I'm going to offer amazing service to buyers and renters anyway, and so I'm going to work myself into an absolute lather and I'm going to hire a ton of people to do it. Or I'm going to come up with a system and a way of looking after buyers that has good human interaction but is actually pretty automated and structured and uses the technology that I've got access to the best of its ability to keep the cost per interaction down, so that the human interactions are really meaningful, not just chasing everybody and on that hamster wheel. So we have to break down what the important interactions are and make sure we're putting our resource, our human resource, into maximising those interactions so that they really give us big bang for our buck in terms of making an impression, making sure people feel good, getting the desired outcomes. And we really need to put our process and policy energy into the low value, but high, sometimes, but often, well, very often, high workload side of it, to bring that workload, to automate that workload as much as possible, to make sure that our humans are not being hamsters on hamster wheels, but actually start to give them their time back to think so that they can look after people better. And I think if we can use this break over the 2025-26 period to actually really reflect not on what features and what tech do I need, but actually what's what would an amazing experience look like for my buyers? What would an amazing experience look like for my sellers? What would an amazing experience or year look like for my team? What would an amazing year look like for my family? And get really clear on what we want that to be. And then get really clear on, well, why do we struggle? Why are we struggling with that right now? Because then if we can understand this is in tech terms, we can understand what the problem is, we can then, and we're really clear on the problem statement, we can actually solve for that solution, much more easily. Yeah.
Kylie, look, that sounds fantastic.
It's a lot of brain power in doing all of that, though.
It is. But
definitely use AI to help.
Back on AI. Look, it sounds fantastic. It sounds very easy and straightforward, but I'm sure it isn't. Trial and error is also key, no?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, but here's the thing too. I think it's not something to solve on a banana lounge on, the 31st of December. I think it's something to think, to reflect on. This is what I want. This is what I think would feel like a better experience. And then in those first early weeks in January, when you're back with the team, get them all around the board table with lots of Post-it notes and really, collectively, because this is where, the team experience and the strength of your people and their history and heritage and everything they bring to the table really make that as rich and as colourful and as you can, so that it really reflects your team culture and collectively and collaboratively solve for how you as a team want those things to look like.
And then 2026 will be a fantastic year.
Well, it will hopefully be a little bit easier than 2025. I don't know. I feel like Mercury was retrograde for most of 2025.
It's been a full moon all year long, you know what I mean?
It's been a lot of blocks, yeah.
It is. It has been. Look, last wise word of advice.
Look, if you haven't done it yet, over the Christmas break, please go to the Google Store or iPhone, Apple Store and just download the app. We really hope at the Rise Initiative that you never need to use it, but we want it to be there in your phone should there come that time when you do need it. Have a little flick through, play with it. And here's the thing too, those 3 counselling sessions, you don't need to use them all at once. You don't need to use them for yourself, and you don't need to wait until there's a crisis. If there's something going on at home or family or team and you want to get on top of it and ahead of it, sometimes talking to someone as a third party can be really helpful for that too. So you don't need to wait till for a crisis to use all the tools in it.
100%. Kylie, I'm a big believer that being able to talk to someone should be free.
Yeah,
should be free and unlimited. Yeah. Medicare, if you listen to me.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the biggest problems that happens when people are facing something difficult or dark, or they've got someone that they know, is that we do tend to go into fight or flight and our brains tend to shut down and you don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And so what we really want the industry to understand is there's a place to go, which will explain what looking for mental health resources looks like, and there's a place that you can go that will help you navigate through it. So you don't need to sort of just be deer in the headlights about, oh my God, what do I do? Like here's the first place to go to get some direction and some support.
And definitely do not wait until your batteries are
don't.
very, very low before acting for your own well-being.
It takes longer to recharge to get back on deck. Yeah.
So 2026, we are on small daily habits.
Yep.
For mental health, little walk, put the phone down, go to the beach.
Yeah.
What else? What are there?
Micro habits, thinking about processes and policies, which I know sounds really dry and boring, but once we've got it thought through, and then your brain doesn't have to work all the time, right? You know what you're doing. Naming it to tame it, like calling out things that are happening for you, and having the tools in your back pocket so that when you need them, you know where to go. You don't have to think through that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kylie. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, that's all we have time for today. We'll be back with another episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast very, very shortly. Bye for now.